Welcome back to Torn Apart, and today we're doing something quite fun that I haven't done in almost a year, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm gonna kill myself and make you all what? No! God, please, no! No!
I think almost exactly a year ago I talked about the end of the DCU, and I basically ranted for a really long time about how much I hated it for so many objective but also subjective reasons. So I thought we might go back to that video there, do something a little bit different, because we have to talk about James Gunn's new DCU. Does it hold up? Is it more interesting than what has been established in the past when it comes to DC Comics supervillains and superheroes? Because now we have three things that came out in the last few years, and we can talk about them and we can speculate a little bit about the future, because there is a lot of movies and TV shows coming out this year that are part of the DCU, and James Gunn is not behind them. He's not created them, he's not directed them, so he's only produced them. So we can be skeptical about the future of the DCU already, especially when he's not behind it. When it comes to James Gunn's work, I've always loved his movies. He's got a weird sense of humor, he's got a love for practical effects, he's got a love for special effects, a love for music as well. And I think the thing that really makes him stand out is mostly the editing. I feel like his projects are always so fast-paced that you sit in front of them and you don't really know exactly what is going on, but time seems to be flying by. Even with the weirdest movies, the weirdest creative choices, you always sit there being like, wow, that was 2 hours? Who thought that was 2 hours? That was insane, right?
How many people does this blow up?
I don't know. I invented it this morning.
What?
Eat peace, mother.
Let's start talking about Peacemaker, because Peacemaker is officially the first new thing in the DCU, because basically he directed Suicide Squad a couple of years ago, and since he became the head of the DC universe kind of thing, he was like, okay, that thing is canon. So if that thing is canon, Peacemaker has to be canon as well, because it's related to Suicide Squad. I'm gonna tell you what all of these things that I'm gonna be talking about are. Like, I'm gonna give you the synopsises, I'm gonna go deep into details about them, and sometimes I'm just gonna focus on my memory of it, because I feel like when it comes to superhero movies, we are really subjected to the hype. Like, we watch all the trailers, all the posters, we listen to all the interviews, we have read the comics, we know these heroes because we've seen them over and over again. So we watch the film, and at the end of the day, our own perception of it is quite biased. So this is why I'm like, I want to see what I actually remember from these things, instead of like rewatching them and giving you like a new interpretation of it, you know? So just in case you didn't know, after the events of Suicide Squad, Christopher Smith, aka Peacemaker, survives and is recruited into a covert Argus mission called Project Butterfly, and the goal is to eliminate parasitic alien creatures that have infiltrated humans and are secretly taking over key positions of power. It's an interesting concept. Of course, the first season kind of suffers from having a low budget and low stakes sometimes, even though the tone is impeccable and the characters are really cool, and John Cena carries the shit out of this series. Like, to be honest, there are so many episodes you're sitting there being like, if John Cena was not in it, this would be boring to watch, but he makes every single interaction with all of the other co-cast members so much more interesting and fun. He's got such a great comedic timing and screen presence as well, because this is like this huge guy who used to be a wrestler, and it's kind of hard to be like, can you imagine him in different situations, or is he always gonna be the buff dude, kind of like Dwayne Johnson basically, because he's the kind of actor who always reminds you of a very specific thing. But John Cena has been delivering like performances that are so interesting, and specifically within Peacemaker itself, and especially I would say season 2 more than season 1. Things that I remember from season 1 is mostly, of course, the introduction of these new cast members, some of them that we met before because of Suicide Squad and some of them not really, and they've got really good chemistry between them. So of course we've got Emilia Harcourt, John Economos and Adebayo. And of course, we also have his weird like supervillain or superhero friend, Vigilante, who is always really fun, especially in the first season. In the second season, I feel like they kind of turned him into a joke and he doesn't really have that much of a character arc anymore. But these people, when they are together and when they're trying to work together, it works out really fine. Plus this whole idea of like these weird little aliens going inside people and controlling them is really fun. It feels like a conspiracy theory kind of show, so it worked out well. Of course, like too many episodes. This is an 8-episode season. I don't remember most of them besides some very specific like action sequences and weird moments with like Leapfrog, for example, with this mysterious character who becomes like one of the main characters in the second season. I remember, of course, the White Dragon, who is being played by a really good actor who you might remember if you've seen Terminator 2, and he basically plays Christopher's father figure, who is also a bit of a white nationalist, and he's got this kind of like Power Rangers like superpower suit, and he's the one who made the Peacemaker helmet as well. Incredibly on topic when it comes to this season here, but sometimes like these kind of like themes, they don't really go well together with the alien invasion, which is the most important part of the plot when you think about it. Like they changed it a little bit in the second season, where basically the white nationalism and the fascism part becomes like the main basically plot. But for a first season, it's kind of weird to mix all of these things together. You could really tell that basically the main storyline was kind of like too short for an entire run of 8 episodes, so they had to add something and they decided to add that aspect. Of course, it's really well handled, it's really interesting once again, and it leads to interesting things in the second season, but I feel like this would have been a really good season of TV if it was maybe 6 episodes or even like a mini series of like 3 episodes, basically a movie when you think about it. At least they introduced us to so many interesting things, and when it comes to the second season, which came out last year, even though technically there is something else I should talk about before, because if you look at the schedule, Creature Commanders actually came out first. But let's talk about Peacemaker Season 2 so we can actually tie a bow around this thing here.
You met your own self from a parallel dimension? You're wearing his clothes?
You think I bought this? That's hateful.
When it comes to the second season, the hype was there, the music was there, the theme song was way more fun. What I'm actually saying, the theme song was always incredibly fun and one of the most memorable things about the entire series. This is probably a thing that we could criticize a little bit about James Gunn. He's so good at crafting these weird musical moments that the quiet moments with just 2 people talking to each other in a room end up sounding kind of bland. This is why I like James Gunn when he goes out there in space, when it comes to the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, or when he's making horror movies. But when he has to put these 2 people talking to each other in a van, yeah, it's fun because the dialogues are incredibly fun and the comedic timings are perfect, but it's still kind of boring when you put it in contrast to the weird shit that they put us in front of a couple of times per episode. Peacemaker discovers a device called the Quantum Unfolding Chamber that allows access to alternate realities where he sees a version of himself who lived better lives, and basically goes to another Earth where, well, first of all, he accidentally kills himself, of course. And then he meets his father, who is actually like a nice person in this universe, and he meets his brother, who didn't die as a child, killed by him, like in his own universe. He's basically hanging out in that universe and he wants to stay there because nobody loves him in the other universe. And we've got Argus, who is actually trying to get to him because they want to get this like multiverse like technology, because basically this happens right after the Superman movie. We've got an agency who is trying to prevent like a multiversal kind of like disasters from happening all over again. And of course we got Rick Flag Sr., who is really pissed off with Peacemaker, and he's gonna make it his entire like life at this point to get back to him however he can. Going into spoilers a little bit when it comes to this season, so they spend so much time teasing us of the fact that this Earth is not a fun version of Earth, it's a Nazi version. It's a version basically like in The Man in the High Castle, where basically the Nazi won World War II 2. And now we have an America that is basically ruled by Nazis, and we've got Nazi supervillains as well. It reminded me a little bit of The Boys, but they didn't push it far enough. Like, they kept this like plot twist from being revealed for so long, to the point that what are we doing here? It feels like this second season we are not exactly exploring anything. There is no climax, for example. That's what I think of it. Like when they finally realize that they're in the wrong Earth and they have to run away from it as fast as possible. All of his friends go into that world and try to save him, and everyone is basically like chasing them, and it ends like that. Of course, this is gonna lead to other more interesting things, maybe in a season 3 or another like movie. Why not? I was expecting way more. I was expecting them maybe to kill a bunch of Nazis or have a war in between the two different worlds. Why not? That would have been incredibly interesting. We got a couple of sequences that are classic James Gunn thing, where we got Argus, who is basically exploring all of the different worlds and doors while they're also searching for Peacemaker, of course. That part of the plot is actually interesting. I'm just complaining about the fact that it took us so long to get there. Of course, I really like all of the things that they did with Arcor and all of the things that we did with Peacemaker when it comes to dealing with the fact that he's a bit of a loser and he doesn't really accept good things happening to him as a sign that he's become a better person. I love the idea of them coming all together at the end of the show to create a chessmate, but then there is another plot twist and he's sent into another universe by himself. It was really weird, to be honest. The final few minutes of the last episode in season 2, I was sitting there being like, you could have done this a couple of episodes ago and it would have been way more interesting. Fun fact, I talked about chessmate already. Do you remember my Smallville video? Yeah, basically that agency already exists within Smallville. So when I watched the season 2, I was like, this is funny. I feel like I've seen this before. Like it's been adapted before. So I don't really know exactly what it is about. I've never read any of those comics, but interesting things being teased. But at the end of the day, it didn't really live up to the hype of the first season. Like I feel like the first season set up so many interesting things we could go into, and then we get into the second season that keeps setting up interesting things, but never actually explores them. It's more like about character journeys instead of like a superhero show, which is basically what we paid to watch at the end of the day, right? Before we talk about the movies, let's talk about another TV show, which is Creature Commandos.
You wanted monsters. You got monsters.
This was actually officially the first produced thing within the DCU that is not related to Peacemaker. Completely new characters, but we're still talking about Amanda Waller. We're still talking about kind of Suicide Squad-like scenarios. So if you love Suicide Squad, this is basically once again Suicide Squad adjacent. If you don't care about any of that, well, you're gonna be disappointed. When it comes to the animation style, it's honestly quite fun. It's quite colorful. All of these characters are so weird, and I like that they're here. Once again, we've got Nazis. We've got a robot who is really mad at Nazis, and he will look for them anywhere he can and destroy them in whatever way possible. This is honestly quite fun. Like, this is one of those shows that I was so happy to go back to it and watch it on a weekly basis, because this is why you do animation. To do this kind of gore that you can't really do in live action, otherwise it's gonna be beyond R-rated, and to have these weird characters who would look weird in live action form as well. So I really hope that the new DCU is gonna have more of these animated shows. Of course, like the plot of this series here, I'm gonna give it to you. It's not really that important, not that interesting. This is a very character-led like project, kind of like Peacemaker, kind of like Guardians and Suicide Squad. You can see what James Gunn is interested in, and it's weird looking characters. Kind of like Guillermo del Toro as well. He loves a good monster. Of course, it's once again created by James Gunn as a series. It came out in 2024. The team is basically made out of Rick Flag Sr., The Bride, Eric Frankenstein, Nina Mazursky, Dr. Phosphorus, G.I. Robot, and Weasel. And basically this happens right after it is said that you can't really use humans for Suicide Squad project anymore within like the universe of the DCU. So Amanda Waller is like, you know what, let's use non-humans. So she found a creative answer to her problem. So she created this team here of people who really don't want to work together, but they end up like liking each other at the end of the day, of course, and they're sent to this like weird fictional country to protect basically the leader of that country from a lot of terrorist attacks. And of course there's a lot of plot twists, but the story is not the most important part. Like there is a little bit of a mystery around like what is actually going on, because it seems like the villain is defeated like way too easily. But I like all of these people here. I like all of these backstories being told to us. So if you don't pay attention to the main story, you're gonna love Creature Commandos, because it's one of those projects you're sitting there being like, I've never seen this before. It's probably gonna remind you of other animated DC projects because it has that same kind of animation style. And I wish there were more superhero shows that were just animated and well animated, unlike Invincible. Let's start talking now about Superman, the movie that came out 2025, the first movie in the DCU. A lot of expectations. People were like scared that this was gonna destroy everything because this was such an important movie. And this is the movie where I actually sat there being like, I haven't liked the character of Superman in a really long time. And actually this led me into watching Smallville and giving you the video that I shot a couple of weeks ago. I didn't like Superman for such a long time and I was looking for something different. And this film actually gave it to me. Let's give you a little bit of a synopsis in case you don't remember what it was about, and then we'll go into my critique of it. It's directed and written by James Gunn, and in this film the world begins to distrust Superman after he intervenes in global affairs against the country of Boravia, which is a metaphor for Israel, by the way, in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Lex Luthor exploits this fear, turning public opinion against him. With the American government approval, he unleashes his own task force to take him down. I actually gave it like a 3.5 out of 5 score on my first viewing because of the hype. And this is why I'm like, you need to really be careful when it comes to these big action blockbuster projects, because the hype is gonna shape quite a lot of your public opinion on it. It doesn't matter how objective you are. At the end of the day, it's gonna ruin your experience. So like when I bought the 4K edition and I rewatched the movie, I actually gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd. And this was mostly because I actually accepted it for what it was. It was a new fresh take on Superman, a different story that was not trying to do what Man of Steel did and Zack Snyder did overall. And it was such a fun adventure with so many interesting characters, and it gave us like a Superman that resembles actually a lot Tom Welling from Smallville and other adventures like Superman and Lois. A good-hearted Superman, a Superman that is so good that he will literally do anything to save any kind of life possible. Like,
I would question myself in the same situation and hold off a beat and consider the consequences.
People were going to die!
this movie made me feel so good about myself, as in it made me like a better person. It made me like wish I could do more good deeds and be better for the people around me. So this is what Superman is about at the end of the day. And even though it's not perfect from like a screenwriting point of view, because it was trying to set up so many different things at the same time, I think it really succeeded. The first time I watched it, for example, I was like, this is the weirdest looking and cutest Superman movie that it's ever being made. And even though the script feels rushed and the dialogues kind of feel a little bit preachy, it has a good heart. And seeing Superman love every single being on Earth so much was actually very wholesome, specifically because of all the war and political divides that we suffer through on a daily basis. To be honest, James Gunn did something quite special, and he made a movie that really like embodied the feel of hope that we all desperately needed last year and we still need today as well. And of course, like if you didn't like Superman, I mean, Supergirl is definitely gonna be a different tone for that. So I'm really looking forward to the movie and to seeing like what it's gonna be like, because as I said before, James Gunn is not actually directing that project. But when it comes to this film, it's so much fun. And to be honest, even the preachy kind of like monologues that Superman has sometimes, the kind of stuff that you've heard over and over again, I feel like you have to say it, because we've been brainwashed by the Snyderverse for such a long time. And back in the days, I actually liked the portrayal of Superman from Man of Steel. It felt different. It felt like he was was an alien. Like, he was there, not being able to be understood by others, trying to use his powers for good, but at the end of the day, he still felt like a warrior that was like a weapon if used not properly. Well, here we've got a Superman who is an actual human being, and he's not only an alien. And also, I really loved Nicholas Hoult's performance as Lex Luthor. He's probably one of the most interesting like take on Lex Luthor that I've ever seen. Of course, the best is still Michael Rosenbaum in Smallville, because he's played with so many different facets of that character. It's almost impossible to do something as good, if I have to be honest. But Nicholas Hoult really went all the way with it, and I would never doubt it, mostly because I've seen him in The Great, like the TV show that he did a couple of years ago, and he already embodied a lot of Lex Luthor-like egomaniacal like personality traits. So it was really fun to see him do all of that. I really love the creature designs, and I really love the Justice Society as well. And the political message was actually unexpectedly well made, if I have to be honest. Like, because this sparked debate as a Superman movie. Like, people were like, oh, should he actually be saving like squirrels in the middle of a fight? Like, shouldn't he be doing other things? Like, why is he trying so hard not to kill these creatures and having all of these discussions? But this is what Superman was all about, and I feel like James Gunn really reconnected us with that specific trait of the hero and the character. I'm really looking forward to seeing Man of Tomorrow, which is actually coming out in 2027. Absolutely insane, like only 2 years after. But now that we've seen and critiqued all of that, what is coming out this year? Because I'm trying to actually like give you a video for each and every single one of them. We've got Lanterns, which is coming out I think in August, if I'm not mistaken. We've got Supergirl coming out in July, and we've got Clayface, which is coming out approximately September or October. I'm gonna tell you a couple of reasons why any of those things might be interesting to look forward to or worry. First of all, let's have a look at Supergirl, which is gonna be directed by Craig Gillespie, who's the guy behind Cruella and Lass and the Real Girl. Well, the trailer, interesting. Concept, very cool as well. It really feels like we're doing Guardians of the Galaxy once again, but Supergirl has a lot of potential because we've seen her on Earth for such a long time in the different TV shows, and if you've seen my Smallville video, you know how I feel about the portrayal of Kara Zor-El in that show. It was abysmal. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they would do with her in space. I really like the sort of like Gen Z, completely depressed, disconnected, detached from like the world and the universe aspect that they've decided to adapt with her. I don't know whether it would be an interesting take to have her dog, like Crypto, be there all of the time, because I feel like he's gonna be kind of like one note, especially since we've seen him do so many different things in Superman and being like part of the main plot as well. But I do agree that when it comes to the cinematography, it doesn't look very interesting. It kind of looks quite bland. It really looks like science fiction, the movie, and not like a specific, well, James Gunn movie. Maybe it's the problem of having someone like Craig Gillespie behind the wheels, where he doesn't really have a specific style. He's a bit of a yes man, but he's a good director nonetheless. Then when it comes to Lanterns, it's created by Chris Mundy and Damon Lindelof and Tom King. Damon Lindelof, of course, is the name that should like ring a bell in your head, because he's done a lot of incredible TV shows. I like all the people like attached to this project. Aaron Pierre is a really good actor. Same goes for Kyle Chandler as well. Deciding to adapt this story through kind of like a true detective kind of like lens is interesting. The trailer didn't really sell me to it, but I'm gonna manage my expectations because we've never actually had a good live action Lantern adaptation, so let's keep our options open just in case. When it comes to Clayface, we still don't have actually an official poster or a trailer for it, but we do know that it's directed by James Watkins, who is the guy behind Eden Lake and The Woman in Black, and it's actually co-written by Mike Flanagan. So we've got two people who are really horror based directed a Clayface movie. The last time we saw Clayface was in Creature Commandos, by the way, so I have no idea which story they're gonna be adapting here. No idea whether this is gonna be kind of like a Joker or like a Harley Quinn spin where he's gonna be a bit of an anti-hero. No idea what this is gonna be about, and this worries me the most among all of these projects, because even Supergirl could be passable or entertaining. Lanterns could be interesting just because we have never seen anything like it, because the last live action Green Lantern was Ryan Reynolds. I mean, besides the one that we saw in Superman, of course. But when it comes to Clayface, no idea. Are they gonna head in the same direction as the things that I've talked about before? But that seemed to be closer to like the old DCU instead of the new one. So I have no idea what this is gonna be about, but let's manage our expectations nonetheless and meet me here in a couple of months for my review of it. Hope you enjoyed this video. As usual, here down at the bottom I'm gonna be putting all of the other videos where I talked about DCU projects, and here at the top the topic of the video that I'm gonna be releasing the next few weeks, if I know. Otherwise it's gonna be a mystery for you and a mystery for me. Don't forget to smash that like button. Every single time that you do that, you make sure that we get a new little animal being saved by Superman.
Can I count on you?
Wouldn't you like Superman to save all the animals on Earth? Maybe he could actually stop that war going on between all the chimpanzees in Uganda. Yeah, that could be quite fun. Maybe he could bring them some peace. I'm Patrick, and this is Torn Apart.
Back in the 90s, I was in a very famous TV show.
Da